Hi everyone, how are you all doing today? I'm Ekta and I'm a third year podiatry student at the University of Northampton. Today I sit down with a very special guest, Nancy Keller. You all know her. If you've seen any of Tomorrow's Podiatry videos, she has hosted there before. She's been quite active as a podiatry student and she's a graduate from Glasgow Caledonian University. And I had such a pleasure talking to Nancy today about her versus arthritis internship. We discussed her hurdles that she's faced. We discussed advice that she's got for students. And there's so many great tidbits in the whole interview that you can learn. And if you're thinking of doing research and you want to try and apply to versus arthritis, and this is something that you're considering, I hope Nancy's story really helps inspire you because she's such a lovely person and she's so smart and she's really dedicated, and you can tell how passionate she is about the whole internship and about rheumatoid arthritis and how she really just wants to help. So I hope you enjoy the interview and stay tuned. Thank you. Hi, Nancy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm a third year student now, so
I know the pressure is on. I feel you.
Wait,
It's
actually,
awful.
Yeah, it's dissertation year, isn't it, for the final year?
Yeah. And I'll tell you now, don't leave it to the end. Literally just get it done. And if it's anything like my year, it'll be put off over and over and over again because obviously the year is changing all the time. And so you have to work with that in the universities too. But if I could go back, oh my God, I'd get it done. The last week beforehand is honestly terrifying.
Oh my God, I can't imagine. One of my friends, she did occupational therapy and she was like saying like I was literally pulling out my hair. Like, she even said the same thing. She was like, get it done.
Yeah. Just sit down.
Yeah, exactly. So for all the people that aren't fully aware, what internship did you just complete?
So I've just finished the versus arthritis allied health profession and nursing internship. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing, but yes. So I've just finished that research program and I did it full time for 8 weeks. And my host university is Glasgow Caledonian University.
Oh, how do you feel after you finish? Like, is it?
I think it doesn't feel like I doesn't feel like I've crossed over the finish line because it is one of those programs that is kind of you assign up to it with the intention that over 2 years you'll kind of have a bit of guidance on creating your research career. And so that means that at the end you kind of have that like finale where you will do a little dissemination day and you kind of have a presentation that you'll show to everyone. It's only 10 minutes and it'll just be kind of summarizing what you did during your internship, the cons and the pros of everything, and then just kind of a wee summary of how you've learned and what you want to do in the future. So that was maybe a bit of finale, but after that you are kind of looking at things like conferences that you'd like to submit abstracts to or posters to, and then also how you'd like to publish some of the work or what you'd like to do with the work further on. It's only 8 weeks and a lot of the people, including myself, did projects that generally would probably be looking at like a year to 2 years to actually fully complete. So for example, within that 8 weeks, they might do something like a systematic review on the topic that they're going to do further research in once they get maybe funding or once they start their PhD or anything like that. So that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm looking at things like conferences to submit abstracts to, and things like little kind of grants and kind of awards and all those things just to bring some recognition to what we've done. Because technically what I did was actually some work that came from the Carnegie that I did last summer, and then also my dissertation. So there's a whole load of results there already. So the next steps for us really are just polishing it all up and then looking at manuscripts and, as I said, poster presentations and such. So definitely still loads to do. I don't feel as if I'm in any way finished.
That's amazing. So if you don't mind me asking, what topic have you selected for research?
So I wouldn't say that it was a topic that I selected, but it was a topic that, I did select it because there were options, but it was definitely a topic that I was interested in. But at the time, I was interested in everything. And so there was like, I was talking about diabetes, arthritis, other autoimmune conditions, and things like that. So then it was actually Gordon Hendry who came to me about this idea for this kind of project. And that was to look at rheumatoid arthritis, early rheumatoid arthritis. And that the way we did that was taking some of the data from the Scottish Early Rheumatoid Arthritis study and looking at that via SPSS and then doing some reanalysis to answer a different question. So generally, rheumatoid arthritis within the first 2 years, and I wouldn't regret that decision at all. It's just such an amazing kind of part of research. There's so much going on within it, and especially within the foot, as we all know, it's just so important that we start understanding a lot more about early rheumatoid arthritis within the foot and whether it's been recognized and whether it may be handled better and if it is being handled appropriately. So loads of questions within that field, and I'm just so honored to be involved within creating something towards answering some of those questions.
Now, this is kind of a dumb question, but are you looking at it specifically from a podiatry scope of view, or are you also considering surgical routes as well when you talk about management?
So management wise, I wouldn't be completely involved at all, because it obviously, so the Scottish Early Rheumatoid Arthritis is study just basically was a very large study that anyone with an early rheumatoid arthritis, so diagnosed within 6 months, I believe, were referred on to these different research clinics, and data was just gathered. There was also a huge biobank, so that there's a lot of data on biology and like things like blood samples and things like that, but that wouldn't be a part of what I'm doing. What we kind of more looked at was things like was there how prevalent was active foot disease, just kind of like more vague topics about the foot. And we also had access to a few x-rays and things like that, so we can actually identify erosions, whether that's worsening, was there joint space narrowing, whether that was worsening. So it's more of a descriptive review rather than anything that's like being very specific towards management. We don't even know how it was managed within like podiatry, for example. We just know the prevalences really, and then because we know those prevalences and baseline demographics and descriptives, we can also kind of look at correlations and then possibly hint to causations. But obviously that is a very long study that you would do. So we're kind of more, it's a lot more descriptive than anything kind of surgical, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a long-winded way of answering.
That's first. I absolutely love it. So the longer your answer, the better, because it helps kind of like, it helps all of us and like even a broader audience kind of understand like how much effort goes into internships that are focused around like research, especially when it comes to rheumatoid arthritis or diabetes, for example. And there's not a lot of people that quite understand the ebbs and flows of it. So the more detailed, the better. I absolutely love that. I did want to ask though, what were some of the first kind of hurdles that you encountered during this internship, and how did you overcome them, if there were any?
I would say, once again, although it's been a year of working from home, I think some people just fit into that world of working and others don't. So I feel like that was one of the things that was definitely something I needed to get on with. It's especially when you're sitting in front of numbers and then doing meetings during the day, it kind of becomes a little bit repetitive, and then it kind of, your motivation just starts to fall. Even though everything that you're doing is interesting, it's still the fact that you're sitting there and your back's sore and all of these things. So I would say that was one of the hurdles that I had to kind of get over. But one of the ways I got around that was mostly actually talking with people from Glasgow Caledonian University and actually shadowing within the research labs on days that data collection was actually happening. Because the great thing about this internship is that it wasn't just you're doing your project. The expectation wasn't even that you had a great big project done by the end of these 8 weeks. The kind of more of the idea of it is that you're getting just that experience of meeting other people at the same stage in their careers, meeting experts within their careers and within the topics that you're looking at, as well as kind of learning about different types of research. So having their capacity to go in and do data collection days and kind of shadow over those experiences really kind of kept you motivated, just because you start to realize, oh, this is another part of what my career could be. And it also broke up the week a wee bit. As well as that, you got to like meet up with some of the interns. So I got to even meet up with one of the interns in person, just because she was actually situated in Glasgow as well. So doing things like that was really great. And also talking to each other about what PhD they're kind of interested in, or whether they're doing masters and what routes they're going down. Because as we all know, especially at this time for PhDs, there's so many different routes you can go down. So making all those decisions for different parts of it. And so to kind of get over that hurdle of sitting at my desk, I made sure that I really appreciated that part of the program, and I didn't like chain myself to a desk and think, oh, I need to do this and this is the only thing I'll get out of this. I recognized from the beginning the importance of all those other extracurricular possibly aspects during the internship as well. So they were obviously the things that I really appreciated, really enjoyed. And then on top of that, we also had study days. So we had days where we literally had meetings from, as I said, experts, and also from people that did the internship previously and how they've progressed from there. So those days also just taught you so many different things about like different topics, different types of research styles, and different kind of avenues that you can go down in the future. So they were the best parts. The only hurdle was probably just sitting at home in front of numbers a lot.
How I can't imagine myself doing that. And it's such a great, like, you know, like massive respect to you for doing it. Was there ever at any point I can't talk.
I know it's hard.
They didn't teach me how to read, apparently. How to read or talk. Was there ever at any point where you felt like, I think I've bitten off more than I can chew? Like I'm gonna quit.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I ever felt as if I was going to quit, because I knew I never got to that point, but also you get so much support through it that, say, for example, if the project become too overwhelming for that time, as I said, it's kind of this expectation that you'll work with that project maybe over 2 years, for example. So there was never a point where I thought to myself, if I told Gordon this week I did nothing, that he would be looking at me in any way that I had failed or something like that. It was very much the understanding of whatever you can put in, you'll get out. And so it's up to you how much you want to put in. But with that, there's always, and I think anytime you're doing these things that are outside of your degree and you're still a student, you're always going to feel that, I would say, that kind of like imposter syndrome, where you're just kind of like, oh, maybe I'm book smart, or maybe I'm good in placement, but I'm definitely, maybe this is completely out of my comfort zone. And I've said that even because I did the video diary, and in the video diary, I just felt like there's so many times that one of the PhD students in GCU, one of my lecturers, or even one of the interns said, oh, wow, that sounds amazing that you did that. And in my head, I'm just like, yeah, you're just saying that because you want to be nice. And I think that does happen because you are completely out of your comfort zone, and you are, as I said, putting in whatever you want to get out of it. So it's hard to know what the expectation is, because really the expectation is whatever you set for yourself. But when you're in a degree system where you're kind of expected to kind of, okay, you get that A, and that's it, that's the expectation, we want you to get an A. And when you go into this world where it's actually you're relying on yourself to set your goals, it's a little bit harder. So I think it's only natural to kind of be like, yeah, sure, I've done good. You're just saying that because you think this is my version of good or something. I don't know. But I never felt like quitting because there was so much support. Like there was not one person that would have said to me, oh, you need to be doing a little bit more than that. There was none of that. There was just more of like, well, if you found that difficult, why don't we try it this way? Or do you think that you need a few days in the research lab and then we can come back to it, because don't worry about it, we've got plenty of time, kind of thing. No pressure, really.
That's amazing. I mean, it's so great. Like you've already got so much pressure that you put on yourself. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
I've got these expectations I've set for myself. I feel like I'm not meeting them. And then as you talk about the imposter syndrome, that's honestly, it's not helping. So to have a really well-structured support system, I think I feel like it takes a lot of pressure off your plate.
Mm-hmm. And I think we have both maybe touched on something that maybe some people would forget about, and that is to admit that to people. So everyone, as I said, I feel like everyone's been through this period of their career, whether that's been in research, whether that's been in placement, and whatever type of expertise that is. I think everyone has gone through that period where they're like, oh my God, am I meeting my goals, and start double checking themselves and feel as if their coworkers or colleagues are saying, oh yeah, you did well, but they're actually thinking, no, you didn't. I think everyone's been through that. And so never lock that up and think, oh, everyone else is fine, because everyone else will say to you, oh, don't you worry. And that's where you get your empathy, because everyone has been through it. And I'd say that's probably why I would never have felt as if I was biting off too much or anything like that, because I was able to admit that straight away. I'd be like, oh, I didn't get that much done or whatever. And that was completely fine, just being honest with your team and with your support system.
Do you think like in a setting like this, faking it till you make it does not really apply? Like it would not work out as well?
Um, I would say it depends. I would say because it is one of those things that it's yourself that's checking yourself. It's like there's not really anyone checking up on you and double checking what you've done. Like, for example, at the end of the week, I could have documents upon documents and tables upon tables of what I've done that week. And your supervisor isn't going to go over and say, oh yeah, you did that analysis correctly. It's yourself that's double checking it. So I feel as if you are doing it, you are really kind of hurting yourself. But at the same time, you could probably get away with it. But as I said, it would end up later on catching up with you. And the entire time you'd just be torturing yourself, because you're going to have to do it last minute, or you're going to have to do it at some point, or you're going to have to give up on that dream because you've wasted your own time, kind of thing. Not in a mean way, but you know what I mean.
No, totally. I mean, it's down to self-discipline, and research is one of those things where it is self-study. So what you're going to put out, and we've spoken about this before, like what you put out, or sorry, what you put in is what you're going to get out of it, and it depends how much this really means to you. And self-discipline is a thing that I think students just in general struggle with. But if you feel really passionate about something, I feel like it's worth it. It's worth it.
I think probably the passion, but also the checking in on yourself, like being able to say before at the end of the day, and be honest with yourself. Don't criticize yourself, but be honest and say, but did I actually get that done? Did I actually do that? Because sometimes you can trick yourself into thinking that you've done stuff. And I do that all the time. And I'll be like, yeah, I've totally done that. And then I look back over it and I'm like, I've half arsed that. And so I'd say the most important thing whenever you're being self-disciplined and when you're relying on yourself is just being honest with yourself in a non-judgmental way, in a more of a productive way, as if to be like, have I done that to the best of my capacity? No, I haven't done that today, but that's completely fine, because I'll just have to take more time and do it the next day. And then I'll feel more confident in those results, for example.
So one thing that kind of just popped into my head is, was there ever a struggle with, I guess, research life and, your personal life? Was there ever a day where you're like, I'm just going to shut myself in my room and just chug away, and I don't want to talk to anybody? Or was there ever a time where like, oh, you know what, I really want to go hang out with my friends, I want to spend time with my partner, I want to spend time with my family, but I really have to do this? So was there ever a struggle, do you think?
I think within the internship, there wasn't actually that much of a struggle. I know for a fact that generally during my degree that there wasn't a struggle, because I just said my degree came first. And as I said to you earlier, that I looked back on that and I was kind of like, oh, I should have kind of made sure that I was enriching both aspects of my life and not relying so much on podiatry to give you that satisfaction. But within the internship, you definitely had a lot more, as I said, this discipline where if you start at 11 instead of 9 and you don't have any meetings that day, because a lot of the time you will have a lot of days that are free as well, that are days for you to self-study. And so on those days, if you don't start until 1, for example, and you then work out and work until the evening, or the next day you could start at 9 and then work until 6 or something like that, you can pick up the amount of hours that you need to do for yourself. So although it's full-time, you do have that flexibility to be able to manage both aspects of everything. And as I said, it is very much like it's a program where there's kind of stuff that you'll learn really quickly because of it's so structured. So things like study days, you'll feel as if at the beginning of the day you don't know anything about that topic. For example, we had one with GCU, and that was on PROMs, so patient reported outcome measures. And at the beginning of the day, I really was like, all I know, the only 2 words I know about appraising anything in research is validity and reliability. But outside of that, I don't know anything about like how you would do that with proms. But at the end of the day, you quickly learned because everyone within that meeting knew so much, but also were very passionate about it. So it took a lot of time in making like things like activities for you to do with one of the other interns and things like that. So because it's so well structured and also by people that are passionate, it's funny how quickly you'll pick things up. And so although you might have thought, oh, during the week, I need to put 40 hours in this week because that's what full time is, you are getting, it's like, what's that word? It's quality over quantity. And so there's a lot of quality hours that are involved within it. And so that's okay as well to be able to say, okay, I can take this evening off. Although I finished at 3, I've definitely done all of what was expected for today, and that's fine, if you get me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really well put, because like, yeah, it is totally like quality over quantity. And you can even say that with, you know, even as a podiatry student and you're doing the degree program, what the homework and I guess like the revision that you do, it needs to be quality over quantity. Because if you do, I mean, and we've discussed this before, if you over revise, there's that point of, you know, you're getting into complex things where it's probably not even going to be expected of you.
Yeah.
Like I remember like in my exam, like our lecturers kept saying like, just stick to the basics, stick to what you know, don't overcomplicate things. And I was very quick to overcomplicate it.
I know. I do it all the time. And I think it's not a thing where you are kind of forcing yourself into it. I think you actually just genuinely get excited about the more complex stuff. And you're like, oh, wow, this is new. Like new stuff is great. Like, and it's such a nice thing to get away from looking at stuff that you've looked at 5 times and look at something completely new. And I do that all the time for exams. I think that's my version of procrastination, is going into the very complex stuff that's just not necessary. And so, yeah, I do that all the time as well. And it's easily done. But then again, I guess it is quality hours whenever you do that. If you're enjoying it, I always enjoyed it, but it then meant that I kicked myself in the exams because I'd be like, oh my God, I definitely failed that. It was just because I'd gone way too deep into the things that I needed to know.
A rabbit hole.
Yeah, literally. Word vomit, like really bad. I'd be like 100 miles an hour talking about something and they'd be kind of like, okay, we get it. You know that.
I think I did that for my Viva, but I don't think they were like, yeah, we know what she's talking about. I think I just like rambled and I just said a bunch of words. Like there's just so much anxiety surrounded in the Viva exam. Oh my God.
I know. It's
being
awful.
Like really cringy flashback.
Oh no, I hate thinking back on it. It's so funny the amount of times that you meet people and they're like, oh no, I can't talk to that clinician. She was my examiner. Because they're just so embarrassed after. They're just like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that to her. Like, do you know when you mix up things like lateral and medial in the midst of all of that word vomit, or you mix up what tendon you're talking about,
you know what,
and you're just being so complex.
I did that with tibia and fibula. Like for the first year, like I swear my lecturer probably thought I was some form of like idiot. Because I just kept mixing up my tibula and fibula, and I did that in a spotter exam, and I was like, oh my God, like I need to just throw myself off a cliff. Like this is just horribly embarrassing.
I know. I did that too. I remember I put the dressing on the wrong foot in one of my exams because it was like one of those ones where like you were working on your classmate and they gave you a task of where to put it or like what was wrong and what you need to offload, for example. This is in my first year. And I definitely put on the wrong foot. And then all I heard was the examiner going, just make sure you read the question. And he kind of gave me a look and I was like, okay, I've definitely done this wrong.
Oh my God. Oh, so cringy. So cringy. Oh my gosh. So I wanted to ask, before you know, if you had to like redo the whole versus arthritis internship, what things would you do differently, either yourself, or what things would you want done differently through the whole internship program?
I would say one thing I think I should have done is take the time to organize myself. So in that I was more wanting to get things done rather than make sure that if I've done them right, that I can find them later. So like the amount of times I had to do analyses twice, and it was just because I wasn't saving like outputs and things like that. And then also just even setting up my weekly timetable, like not that it has to be very rigid, because obviously things change every week within the program. You've got a study day on Tuesday this week and then a study day on Thursday next week, and it's just changing all about, and that's fine. And it's quite flexible. And then also you don't know when you'll have a meeting with someone or something like that. So, but I think I should have done that, because I think it would have taken the pressure off myself a wee bit to be able to, because normally I am a lot more organized, but for this one, I don't know why I wasn't. Like normally I'd be able to say, okay, every Monday morning, I'm going to concentrate on this. And then if not, that's fine. I can move it to Tuesday morning, or I can move it to this space here. Whereas I didn't do that for myself. And I think that meant that sometimes I felt as if, although I'd done hours that day or something like that, I felt as if, oh, I didn't do that. And I just felt a little bit flustered. So I think if I was to do it again, I'd be kind of not having a set timetable, but I would say, okay, on Monday, I want to do 3 hours of X. On Tuesday, I want to make sure that I go for a run. And then outside of that, I'll do X, Y, and Z. So that you kind of have not a rigid, but like a kind of template of what you'd like yourself to do. And that can be your bare minimum, and you can work off of that later on. And then from the whole program perspective, I think and not in a cringy way, but I think the study days were all really great, really great. But I think it would have been nice to get some pre-reading. And I know that is so cringe, because that is literally like me being a nerd. Like I want to study more.
But that's the nerdiest thing I've heard anybody say ever. Oh, can we have homework, please? Get out.
But I just thought it would have been nice, because then you would have time to read up on, because like sometimes you knew what the topic was, but you really didn't know where it was going. And then there was obviously some study days that did this. So they did the pre-reading, and they also sent out like a timetable of what topics you're going to do and what activities you're going to do. And so it meant that you're kind of able to come in and have the confidence to actually ask questions that you've read up on and then realized you didn't really understand. So I liked that. And so I think that would have been good if it was a little bit more. But obviously, as I said, things moved about all the time. So you didn't really know, sometimes you didn't really know if that study was happening and things like that. So it's understandable if it didn't happen, but it was great whenever it did.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely.
I know, nerd, such a nerd.
Nerd.
I want to read more, please.
Oh my god, I saw this like really cute post with so the new U of N society, podiatry society, and it was super adorable. And they basically like they introduced themselves, and they were like, I'm studying this, and this is the nerdiest thing about me. And I'm like, that's just like, it's just so pure and wholesome. Like I absolutely love it. And I think the student that's leading it now, that's the president of the podiatry society, I think she said she loved anime, and I was just like, yes. Because I love anime too. And I'm like, there's one more of us. Podiatry and anime. I don't think you could get any more nerdier. And then we've got you with like, more homework, sir.
I know.
It's just sort of
it's actually such a good idea. That's such a good icebreaker to ask people how nerdy they are, because I feel like people, I think people in general try and act like they're cool, especially when it comes to like, do you know when you can tell someone's done so much work, like they've worked so hard, and then they belittle themselves for some reason and try and act as if, oh no, that was easy. I spent a few hours on it last night or something like that. You're just thinking in your head, like, be honest. Just like tell us how much work you put in, because that's not a problem. And I think like it would be so nice to hear that more, because I feel like I'm just too open and I tell people all the time about how nerdy I am. And sometimes I'm like, you're too, like, it's not just me.
Don't nerd shame me. Get out.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. Did you end up making a lot of friends on your internship journey?
Yeah, I did. I would say like from people that I've spoken to that have done it previously before COVID and such, they kind of had made friends that they probably will have for life, or that kind of way, that they've got best friends from it that they text all the time, things like that. And we wouldn't have had that much exposure to one another, just because obviously it was working from home. We all met up in person on one occasion, and that was in Oxford for a study day. So we all actually traveled to Oxford, and were able to meet that day. But outside of that, it's all been virtual visits. And of those visits, majority of them were hosted on study days from university. So it was like you only really got to talk during the activity sessions and things like that. But as I said, it's 2-year program. And as I said, we're like, everyone's kind of concentrating on submitting abstracts for conferences and stuff. So I wouldn't say any, like when we did all meet, like it's funny how similar we all were, like literally all different professions, but it was so funny how, I don't know, but it was weird. It was like as if we all kind of were on the same page, which was really good. So I think we're all very adamant that we'd like to see each other at conferences and things and work on that. Because I think at the end of the day, we'd still all kind of be like, what's great about it is you know that you can message someone about anything now when it comes to the research world, because as student or even new graduates, you kind of know that like within your field, a lot of people might be more concentrating on whatever element of their career. And so when you meet someone that's in that same boat, it's always so good to kind of hold on and get as much information from one another and support one another. So I think we'll all kind of stay in touch for that reason, and hopefully we'll get to see more of each other in the future.
That's so lovely. I mean, I hope that works out, because I mean, it's so great to just have friends that you have like common passions with.
Yeah.
No, I worded that really weird, but you know what I mean? Like you've got like common interests and you're like, oh, this is great. And this is like academic. So it's like even better.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for students that are thinking of considering versus arthritis internship program?
I think probably with regards to applying, my biggest bit of advice is to do it, as in not do the program. You can do the program if you want to, but do the application, send the application. If you get the interview, you get the interview. If you can do the interview, you do the interview. If you get the job or the internship after that, then that's when you can make that decision later on, whether that suits you or whether it doesn't. And I don't think there's any harm in applying for these things, because the interview and also getting to discuss research and having that kind of application process is so important for everything, really. So it's always an experience. And so there's no harm. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen from doing any of it? Nothing, really. And the only thing is making a fool of yourself on your dissemination day. But like literally no one's looking at you like that. Everyone's just kind of looking like, oh yeah, and it's a happy day, everyone's finished. So it's, as I said, very supportive program. You will only learn from it. There's nothing, even if you do the program and you realize at the end, oh no, research isn't for me, that's a huge thing to take away from it. So I think there's zero harm in doing it. That's probably my biggest bit of advice to people, that literally what's the worst that can happen?
That's so true. I love that. I mean, even if you get a little bit of rejection, like it's just something to like help you develop further and develop like better strategies as you go forward. Like rejection, it's not really a bad thing, is it?
Yeah. And everyone's been at that point in their life. So if you do get rejected, there, like, I know that people can then say, okay, what was it that was missing from my application? What was it that was missing from my interview? And if you are finishing up as a student, or even if you're in your early career within any part of like healthcare, whether that's private or public, you're going to have interviews for the and more interviews for the rest of your life. There's no chance that you're not going to. Even if you're self-employed, you're always going to have some sort of experience that involves this kind of application interview process, whether that's personal or if it's your professional life. So I think especially because it's kind of geared towards people that are in their final year or within the first 5 years of graduation, you're at that point where that's just invaluable, that experience anyway, no matter what. So there's no harm in doing it, and you might as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Before we let you go though, do you have a foot joke
My
for
God,
us?
no. I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad. I'm trying to think. I literally in my daily life, I think I have a lot of puns, but outside of that, I'm not that far gone.
I think I might be. I've got one. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, of course I do.
I don't think I can say it with a straight face. Oh, this is horribly cringy. So what's Banana's favorite shoe?
Bananas. Okay, I won't think in too much, because I really want, like, this is the problem when people ask me jokes. I really want to know. I don't want people like that. Just shows I'm such a know-it-all. I'm such a know-it-all. I'm literally like, no, she can't tell me what the answer is. I'm gonna figure it out. Okay. Just tell me.
A slipper.
That is so bad. I would have never gotten that. I was like thinking like, okay, Clark shoes, Geox, Nike. I was thinking of like brands.
Why would you say Nike?
I don't know. I
That's
was
not
like,
even
it kind of looks
funny.
like a banana. The tick. I was literally thinking of anything and everything, but it was that's so funny. I literally did do that. I was like proper like, no, I need to know the answer to
this is not statistics. You're fine. You're fine. It's a stupid, corny joke.
But I do that all the time. I once went to a show and the guy at the end was like, right, guys, I'm going to give you a few jokes. He was a mental guy. It was very funny. And at the end of his like singing, he just goes, right, I've got a few jokes for you guys. And he was like, an Alcatraz? Yeah, I think it was an Alcatraz. He was like, so an Alcatraz, when it's flying away from the sun, has a 12-foot wingspan. When it's flying towards the sun, it has a 6-foot wingspan. Why is that? And straight away, like in this little cafe, I proper like shouted and went like this. I was like, because they're doing this. And literally completely forgot where I was. And the guy just kind of looked at me like, obviously, if you're telling a joke and someone ruins it, you're just going to hate her. But I was like thinking in my head, this like know-it-all little student. I was like, he's going to be so happy. And he just looked at me and he just went, okay then. And literally all my friends were just looking at me like red, shocked. The whole cafe was silent. Like it's something that like at 3 a.m, it's one of those things that you remember, you just go, oh my God. I did
that. I'm dying.
Like I was proper ready to go. I was about to take flight.
Oh my God. I need to like erase this memory from my
know. Just don't ever tell me a joke because I will ruin it. I will ruin it by either like not wanting you to tell me the answer because I'll just keep thinking about it until I figure it out. Yeah. Or I'll finish it off for you and you'll hate me.
Okay. So never tell Nancy a joke. Got it.
Done.
Anyways, it was so lovely talking to you. I'm so happy that you enjoyed your internship and for your advice, and it's absolutely amazing. It's such a pleasure to talk to you all the time.
I know, yourself as well. You're really good at this. Like normally whenever I did all of this, I was so nervous. You wouldn't like, you're just so like chill and chatting about everything. Okay. Makes it easy for the person that's trying to talk about stuff.
About the nerdiest stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. See ya.
Bye-bye.